I used to think I had it all figured out. A successful career as a software engineer, a beautiful fiancée named Jessica who I had been with for 5 years, and a tight-knit family that included my younger brother Adam, who I helped raise after our father passed away. We were 3 weeks away from our wedding when I started noticing Jessica acting strange, constantly checking her phone and making excuses to leave the house. Before I tell you how my perfect life crumbled overnight, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you love, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of survivors. My name is Alan, a 32-year-old software engineer living in Seattle. Technology had always been my passion, but meeting Jessica at a tech conference 5 years ago changed everything for me. She was presenting a panel on user experience design, and I was immediately captivated by her intelligence and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her work. After awkwardly hovering around her booth, I finally gathered the courage to introduce myself. We exchanged numbers, and by the end of the week we were having dinner together. Our connection was instant and powerful. We shared the same dreams of building a life in the Pacific Northwest, maybe starting our own tech company someday, and eventually raising a family in one of those charming craftsman homes in the suburbs. After 2 years of dating, we moved in together, and last Christmas I proposed during a trip to Hawaii. Her joyful yes and the tears in her eyes made me feel like the luckiest man alive. Throughout all these life changes, my younger brother Adam remained one of the most important people in my life. When our father died of a heart attack, when Adam was just 14 and I was 19, I stepped up as much as I could. I postponed some of my college plans to help our mother keep things together, driving Adam to basketball practice, helping with his homework, and trying to be the male figure he needed during those crucial teenage years. Even after I moved out, our bond remained strong. I always made time for Adam, from attending his college graduation to helping him land his first job at a marketing firm. Once Jessica and I got engaged, wedding planning took over our lives. We booked a beautiful venue overlooking Puget Sound, sent out handcrafted invitations to 200 guests, and Adam eagerly volunteered to plan my bachelor party. Jessica seemed to throw herself into the details with enthusiasm, coordinating with my mother on family traditions to incorporate. I was touched by how important it seemed to her to connect with my family. About 2 months before the wedding, I started noticing subtle changes in Jessica. She became somewhat distant, often lost in thought during our conversations. When I asked if everything was okay, she would quickly smile and blame it on wedding stress or work deadlines. She also began spending an unusual amount of time with my family, particularly at my mother's house, where Adam was temporarily staying while his apartment underwent renovations. My mother would call to tell me that Jessica had dropped by again to discuss wedding details or family surprises they were planning for me. While I appreciated their closeness, something about the frequency of these visits made me uneasy. Still, I dismissed my concerns as pre-wedding jitters, telling myself how lucky I was that my fiancé and family got along so well. 3 weeks before the wedding, both families gathered for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. The evening felt off from the start. Jessica seemed nervous, knocking over her water glass twice and barely touching her food. Adam, usually the life of any gathering, was unusually quiet, avoiding eye contact with me throughout the meal. When I tried to include him in conversations about the bachelor party plans, he gave short, non-committal responses before excusing himself to take a phone call that lasted 20 minutes. The next day, my best friend Marcus called me with concern in his voice. He had seen Jessica and Adam at a cafe near his office, and something about their interaction bothered him. According to Marcus, they were sitting unusually close, speaking intensely, and at one point he thought he saw Adam wipe a tear from Jessica's cheek. That night I confronted Jessica, asking directly if there was something going on that I should know about. Her reaction was a mix of defensiveness and forced casualness. She laughed a little too loudly, saying Marcus had obviously misinterpreted a simple conversation about a wedding surprise. She then turned it around, questioning why I would doubt her and suggesting I was being paranoid due to wedding stress. Wanting desperately to believe her, I apologized and tried to put it out of my mind. One Tuesday morning, about 2 weeks before our wedding, Jessica jumped into the shower right after receiving a text that seemed to upset her. She left her phone on the nightstand, something she had been careful not to do lately. Fighting against my better judgment but driven by growing suspicion, I looked at her messages. What I found made my blood run cold. There were dozens of exchanges with someone whose name was saved simply as a heart emoji. The messages revealed an affair that had been going on for months. Phrases like, "I cannot wait to be with you," and "I hate lying to him, but we need more time to figure this out," stared back at me from the screen. There were no explicit clues about who this person was, but the timestamps aligned perfectly with her frequent visits to my mother's house. I took screenshots and sent them to myself, then replaced the phone exactly as I had found it. I decided I would confront her that evening after work, wanting time to process my thoughts and control my emotions. But at 2:30 that afternoon, I received an urgent call from my mother, asking me to come to her house immediately. Her voice was strained, as she mentioned a family matter that could not wait. When I asked if everything was okay, she simply repeated that I needed to come right away. With my heart racing, I told my team lead I had a family emergency and drove straight to my childhood home. Walking into the living room, I was met with a scene that looked staged for an intervention. Jessica sat on the couch, eyes red from crying. Adam stood by the fireplace looking at the floor. My mother and Jessica's parents sat in adjacent chairs, their faces grave. The moment I entered, Jessica began sobbing harder. My mother stood up, placing her hand on my shoulder as if to brace me. What came next shattered my world into a million pieces. Jessica was pregnant, 14 weeks along, and the father was Adam, my own brother. As the words hung in the air, I felt as though I had been plunged into ice water. My ears rang, and my vision tunneled. Jessica stumbled through her confession, explaining through tears how it had begun during one of her visits to discuss wedding plans. Adam added that they had tried to fight their feelings but had ultimately given in to what he called a connection neither of them expected. The details pierced me like physical wounds. How they first kissed in our family kitchen while my mother was out grocery shopping. How their affair continued in secret meetings disguised as wedding planning sessions. How they had been trying to figure out how to tell me before the wedding but kept putting it off, hoping their feelings would somehow resolve themselves. As the full weight of their betrayal crashed down on me, something snapped inside. All the hurt transformed instantly into rage. I lunged at Adam, landing a solid punch that sent him stumbling backward into the fireplace tools. The room erupted into chaos. Jessica screamed. Her father jumped between us as my mother pulled me back, begging me to calm down. Jessica's face streaked with mascara, approached me with her hands outstretched. She said she never meant for this to happen, that she still cared about me deeply, but that she and Adam had developed genuine feelings for each other. The casual way she spoke about falling for my brother while wearing my engagement ring made me physically ill. Adam, nursing his bloodied lip, offered his own weak justification. He said sometimes in life unexpected things happen that we cannot control, that it just happened, that neither of them wanted to hurt me. The sheer audacity of his excuses only fueled my anger. Then came the most surreal part of this nightmare. My mother, still gripping my arm, suggested we all needed to work through this together as a family. She actually said the words, "We cannot change what has happened, but we can decide how we move forward." Jessica's father, a man I had respected and who had welcomed me into their family, suggested that perhaps, given the circumstances, I should consider forgiving them both, that the child would still be my niece or nephew, and that I could still play a role in its life. He mentioned family embarrassment and how difficult it would be to explain to relatives and friends. My mother, in what I can only describe as the ultimate betrayal, looked me in the eye and said, "Alan, I know this is difficult, but you have always been the responsible one, the bigger person. We need you to be that person now." I looked around the room at all these people who claimed to love me, now asking me to swallow my pain and dignity for their comfort. In that moment, something fundamental broke in my relationship with all of them. Without another word, I walked out, ignoring their calls as I got into my car and drove away. The next few hours passed in a blur. I drove aimlessly through the city, eventually checking into a hotel downtown where no one would think to look for me. I turned off my phone after seeing dozens of missed calls and messages from my family and Jessica. The hotel bar became my sanctuary that night, as I tried desperately to drown the images of my brother and fiancée together. The next morning, Marcus found me, after calling every hotel in the area. He took one look at my disheveled state and brought me back to his apartment. For the next week, I called in sick to work and ignored every attempt at contact from my family. Marcus fielded calls telling everyone I needed space. In his guest room, I alternated between rage, despair, and a numbness that scared me more than the pain. On the 6th day of my self-imposed exile, Jessica and Adam showed up at Marcus's apartment. Marcus tried to turn them away, but I decided it was time to face them. I wanted answers. I deserved the complete truth. The confrontation that followed was raw and brutal. I demanded to know exactly when their affair started and how long they had been making a fool of me. The truth was even more painful than I imagined. Their relationship had begun 7 months earlier at my birthday party of all places. While I was thanking guests, they had shared a moment on the balcony of our apartment that led to a kiss. What followed was months of deception, sneaking around behind my back while planning our wedding. The most devastating revelation was learning that several family members had suspected something but said nothing to keep the peace. My cousin had seen them holding hands at a family gathering but dismissed it as innocent. My aunt had noticed their lingering glances but decided it was not her place to say anything. But the ultimate betrayal came when Jessica admitted that my mother had known about the affair for 3 months. When they realized Jessica was pregnant, they had confided in her first, and she had advised them to wait until after a safe point in the pregnancy to tell me. Her primary concern, it seemed, was not losing access to her grandchild, even at the expense of my heart being shattered. Something changed in me at that moment. A clarity washed over me as I realized these people were not worthy of the love and loyalty I had given them. I told Jessica and Adam exactly what I thought of them, using words I had never spoken aloud before. I described in precise detail the depth of their betrayal and the irreparable damage they had caused. Jessica removed her engagement ring and placed it on the coffee table. Adam pleaded for understanding, invoking our brotherhood as if it still meant something. I looked at him and said the words that would set my new path. You stopped being my brother the moment you touched her. I do not know either of you anymore, and I do not want to. Over the next few days, I took control of my life with a cold, determined efficiency. I called the wedding venue, the caterers, and the other vendors to cancel all arrangements, not caring about the lost deposits. I contacted my company and requested an immediate transfer to our Austin office, something that had been offered to me months earlier. My team lead, sensing my desperation, expedited the process. While Jessica was staying with her parents, I returned to our apartment and packed only what mattered to me, leaving behind anything we had purchased together. I put my things in storage, booked a one-way flight to Austin, and found a furnished short-term rental online. Before leaving Seattle, I had one final confrontation with my family. I told them I was moving and made my terms crystal clear. I wanted no contact from any of them. I would not be sharing my address or phone number. I had already blocked them on all social media and my phone. I told them that any attempt to reach me through friends or colleagues would only result in those channels being cut off too. When my mother began crying, asking how she could lose both her sons in different ways, I reminded her that she had made her choice 3 months ago when she decided to protect their secret instead of me. As I walked out of my mother's house for what I expected might be the last time, Adam tried to follow me to my car. I stopped him with 4 simple words that I wanted to be the last he ever heard from me. Go to hell, Adam. My new life in Austin began in a fog. The company provided temporary housing while I searched for an apartment. My new team welcomed me warmly, unaware of the personal catastrophe I had fled. I found a modern 1-bedroom in a downtown high-rise, as different from my Seattle craftsman as possible. I wanted nothing that would remind me of the life and future that had been stolen from me. The first months were incredibly difficult. I slept poorly, plagued by dreams of Jessica and Adam together, often waking up in cold sweats or with tears on my pillow. During the day, I poured myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind occupied. After 2 months of this unsustainable pattern, my new manager gently suggested I might benefit from talking to someone professional. The therapist I found specialized in betrayal trauma. In those early sessions, I could barely speak about what had happened without my voice breaking. She helped me understand that what I was experiencing was not just heartbreak, but a profound breach of trust from multiple people who were supposed to love me. She validated my decision to create distance and assured me that forgiveness, if it ever came, did not need to include reconciliation. At work, I gradually connected with my new team. One colleague in particular, Terry, took me under his wing. Noticing my isolation, he invited me to join his weekend hiking group. The first few outings were awkward as I had become unaccustomed to casual social interaction, but the physical exertion and natural beauty of the Texas hill country offered a strange comfort. Through the hiking group, I discovered rock climbing, which became a form of physical therapy for my emotional pain. The focus required to navigate a climbing wall left no room for ruminating on betrayal. The metaphor was not lost on me either. Upward progress, one careful handhold at a time. As 6 months passed, I built a new routine. Weekdays were for work therapy and solo dinners. Weekends included climbing, hiking, and occasionally joining Terry and his wife for dinner. I was not happy exactly, but I was functioning. I had moments of peace that gradually grew longer. Despite my efforts to vanish completely, my family continued attempting to reach me. They tried different phone numbers, created new email accounts, and even contacted Marcus, who thankfully respected my wishes and revealed nothing. Jessica sent a handwritten letter to my office that I returned unopened. Adam tried to reach me through a mutual friend from college, who forwarded me his message asking if we could talk just once. I blocked that friend too. In therapy, I began exploring what forgiveness might look like for me. Not the kind my family had demanded that day in my mother's living room, but a release of the anger that was still consuming too much of my energy. My therapist helped me understand that forgiveness was not about them, but about freeing myself from the emotional shackles of what they had done. Around the 8-month mark in Austin, I met Sophia at a company event. She was a software engineer on another team, brilliant and straightforward, in a way that was refreshing after years of Jessica's now obvious deceptions. We started having lunch occasionally, talking about work projects and gradually sharing bits of our personal lives. When I finally told Sophia about what had brought me to Austin, I expected the usual awkward sympathy. Instead, she shared her own experience with betrayal from a former business partner who had stolen her startup idea. Her understanding came from a place of genuine empathy rather than pity. Our friendship deepened, and for the first time since leaving Seattle, I found myself looking forward to spending time with someone. At the 1-year mark, 2 significant things happened. I was promoted to team lead, and I agreed to a proper date with Sophia. Both felt like milestones in my recovery, signs that I was building something new rather than just running from the past. That same week, I ran into a family friend who had moved to Austin years earlier. After an uncomfortable conversation where she admitted she had heard what happened, she mentioned that Jessica and Adam's relationship was struggling under the weight of family expectations and community judgment. My mother had apparently been telling people that I would come around, eventually unable to accept that I had truly cut ties with them all. This encounter prompted me to do something I had not considered before. I sent one email to my mother. Not a message of forgiveness, but of closure. I explained that I was not coming back, not to Seattle and not to the family. I told her I was building a new life, and that while the pain had lessened, the trust was permanently broken. I set clear boundaries. I would accept limited contact through email only, but I would never pretend to be one big, happy family with Adam and Jessica again. I would never acknowledge their child as any relation to me. Those were my non-negotiable terms. 3 days later, I received a response. For the first time, my mother did not try to defend them or appeal to family loyalty. She simply expressed regret for her role in hurting me and accepted my terms. It was not reconciliation, but it was something close to peace. As my relationship with Sophia cautiously progressed, I was honest about my trust issues. We agreed to move slowly, building something based on complete transparency. When anxieties surfaced, as they inevitably did, I worked through them in therapy rather than projecting them onto her. The lesson I learned through this painful journey was not what my family had tried to force upon me, that blood trumps all, and that family must be forgiven regardless of their actions. Rather, I learned that self-respect must come first, that healthy boundaries are essential even with family, and that sometimes walking away is the strongest choice you can make. Today, my life bears little resemblance to what I had planned with Jessica. but it is authentically mine. My relationship with Sophia continues to grow at its own pace. My career has flourished in ways it might not have in Seattle. I still climb, hike, and occasionally wake up with bad dreams, but they come less frequently now. I do not know if I will ever fully heal from their betrayal, but I know this much: I chose myself when no one else would, and that has made all the difference. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family to save yourself? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe to hear more stories of survival and recovery, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to choose yourself. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is not determined by those who fail to value you.